Hello everyone, welcome back. In this video, we will explore the create command of the BODHI app. Before diving into the command itself, let's go over a few core concepts of the BODHI app that will help us understand the underlying workings of the create command. So I have here the BODHI home opened, my BODHI home. And as you can see, there is a file called tinylama-instruct.yml inside the aliases folder of the BODHI home. The BODHI home is by default located in the home.cache/BODHI, and this is where the BODHI app stores all its configurations. So let's explore the model alias first. What we see here is a YAML file with all the configuration that tells BODHI which model to run and how to configure it. So first what we have is the alias itself. This is sort of an ID. So this particular ID helps BODHI figure out which model alias we are talking about. So alias acts as an ID. Then we have some meta information, family tiny llama. This plays no significance in how the BODHI app runs. This is only a meta information. Then what we have is repo, file name, and snapshot. These are important configuration. These help BODHI determine which model to run. So the repo, the blog, tiny llama. So this is on the Hugging Face repo. This is the file name as we saw in the previous video, and then the snapshot, just a reference of which particular version we're talking about. When you do a pull, it basically stores the snapshot as the refs main, like whatever is pointing to the main branch. This features chat is again for future proofing and a meta information. It does not have any impact yet. Chat template is an important configuration. We'll look into chat template a little more detail later. Then we have the request params. These you would recall from the OpenAI API parameters. So these are the fallback parameters in case you want to basically specify fallback parameters in case these are not specified in the request params. These values are going to be used. And then we have the context params. These are more of a model loading parameters. A few of them might be familiar. I think one important context parameter is n parallel. N parallel determines how many parallel requests are served at a time. You can set it to more than one, so multiple parallel requests will be served. Depending on your GPU memory and the version of your GPU, you can set it higher. But if you set it too high and your GPU is not able to take the load, that might crash or may result in unexpected behavior or very slow token generation. So you can play around with these parameters and figure out what value works best for your configuration. Let's again see what the components of BODHI home are. As already mentioned, BODHI home is stored by default in your home folder .cache/BODHI. Going by like Hugging Face home is stored in .cache/Hugging Face. So we basically are just next to the Hugging Face folder. And in BODHI home, you'll find a few configurations. Like once you basically install the application and run it for the first time, it sets up BODHI home, and it sets up BODHI home by default in the home.cache/BODHI, unless you override your run with a BODHI_home environment variable. In that case, it's going to use that particular folder as a BODHI home and set it up the folder the first time it runs. So in the aliases, will store all the configuration file for the aliases that you create. I've created multiple of them, so you see multiple files. In your case, if you have just installed the application, it will be you will see an empty folder here. Then the logs file, if it outputs log messages. In case there is troubleshooting needed, these logs are going to be helpful. When we have the .env to write a few environment variables like BODHI host, BODHI port, they go over here. BODHI.SQLite is the SQLite database that stores the chat interactions. We'll come to it in future videos. Models.yaml is again a packaged pre-configured model aliases. We saw in BODHI list -- report. So it picks up the data from this particular YAML file. So that's about the BODHI home. Now let's jump on to the main part of this lecture, which is the BODHI create command. So as with any other commands, we start with BODHI create -- help to see what all options this particular commands provide us. So we see in the BODHI create -- help, BODHI create to create a new model alias. It has quite a lot of configurations, but most of this configuration is very similar to what we saw in the model alias YAML file. So you specify all those configurations using the command line over here, and it creates that particular model alias YAML file. So we again have the options here. So BODHI create options, and we also specify the alias. What is the ID of the alias that we are creating? As typical, we specify the repo and then the file name. The important bit here is about chat template. So let's deep dive into the chat template configuration. So when you have a chat with a large language model, you have a user query and then the assistant reply, user query and the assistant reply. But that is not how the input is fed into the large language model. Input to LLM is typically a string input. So there is a template needed to convert this chat structure into a string, and that is where the chat template or the tokenizer config plays a role. On the chat template side, we have a few popular chat templates that are already there, and many of the model use one of these templates for their own RLHF training as well. So we have identified those and provided them as a direct configuration, right? So if your chat template is any of the Llama 3, Llama 2, 5, Gemma, DeepSeek, Commander, you can directly specify a chat template as an ID. But if your chat template is not one of these configurations, but you have your own tokenizer config.json file, you can use the tokenizer config.json option to specify that particular repo from where the tokenizer config is going to be pulled, and that is going to be used as a chat template. Chat templates are very important. If you mix and match, you are not going to get the expected output. Do check which chat template your model is using and try to use the same chat template, either using the chat template ID or providing the tokenizer config repo to the model alias. So next we see we have the typical repo file. You don't have to specify the snapshot as we saw in the model alias file, but whatever is in the refs main is basically pulled, and the current refs main snapshot stored in the model alias file. Then we have the chat template we already discussed. If it is one of the predefined values, you can use it here, or you can specify the tokenizer config repo from where the tokenizer config JSON file is going to be pulled. Family is again a meta information, you can skip it, it's optional. And force flag again to download it again if the model is already downloaded. Then we have the OpenAI compatible request defaults. So these are the fallbacks. If they are not, if the request incoming request object does not specify, these are the values that are going to be used. So it helps you to basically guide your LLM better by default. And these are the context parameters, same to what we saw in the model alias file. So n parallel, again, number of parallel sequences to decode or number of parallel requests to process at the same time. A few of the others require more technical details, so we'll not go into that right now. So let's see, let's actually try and create a new model alias for ourselves, which is going to be very similar to the Tiny Llama instruct configuration that is available in the BODHI pull remote. So now let's try to create our own model alias. We'll use BODHI create, and then we'll specify our alias ID. So we'll say Tiny Llama and comma custom. This can be any string. I'm just specifying it in this way because I think that has become some sort of a standard right now to specify the model aliases. Then we have the repo. For the repo, I'm going to use the Tiny Llama GGUF hosted by the blog. Then the file name, which is going to be same as the default one, which is a quantized 4 version. Then I'm going to use the chat template. Luckily, the Tiny Llama chat template is already identified as one of the chat templates, so I can use it here. If not, you can actually specify the tokenizer config and then specify the repo that this particular model is going to use. So instead of specifying the chat template as ID, I'll specify the tokenizer config way. So here I need to specify the repo from which the tokenizer config JSON should be pulled. So I'm specifying the Tiny Llama original repo, which has the tokenizer config. Then I can give a few fallbacks for the OpenAI request params. So frequency penalty, I can set it as 0.1, or I can specify the stop tokens here. User, I can specify up to 4 stop tokens. So I'll just specify one more. And these are very model specific. So before specifying them, do check that these are correct. Otherwise, you'll get the unexpected result. I'll set the context params n parallel as 4. So 4 sequences can be processed in parallel, or 4 requests can be addressed in parallel. That's pretty much it. And then I'll run it. So it says repo already exists, so it does not need to download it. Tokenizer repo also exists, so it does not need to download it. And it has created Tiny Llama custom aliases in my BODHI home aliases folder. So I can go back to my BODHI home. In the aliases folder, I see a Tiny Llama construct created with all the parameters that basically I specified on the command line. Now I can start using this alias for running my models that we'll see in the next video. I hope you liked it and you learned some valuable concepts about BODHI. In the next video, we'll jump into running some models using the alias we just created. Thank you for watching and see you next time.